Body weight scales. There are so many of them on the market in different price ranges with different functionality. Sometimes it's very hard to pick the one that would be right for you. So let me help you choose. Hello, I'm Dr. Sam. This is Dr. Sam's Health, and this is my first video for 2025. In my New Year's resolution, just several days ago, I promised to make more videos in 2025 about nutrition, about exercise, about mental health. And since it's the beginning of the year and many of us are starting certain body transformations and starting to track their weight, I decided to make a video about different body scales that you can use to track your progress. I've got quite a few of them. They are lying here in front of me. And what I would like to do is I would like to talk about how to pick a scale, and also I would like to talk about how to measure your body weight, how frequently you should do it, whether you should do it or not, what are the conditions, and so on. I will talk about it in the video to follow, and I actually discuss it in my book, The Rational Diet. Check it out. But today I would like to just review several scales, and ultimately I would like to come up with some sort of a guide in terms of how to pick a good scale for your budget and for your needs. As always, before we begin, I have to make my disclaimer. I'm a medical doctor. I practice medicine here in Ontario, Canada, but I do not provide any kind of medical advice over YouTube or on my website, drsamshealth.com, or in my book, The Rational Diet. The opinions that I present here are solely mine. They do not represent the opinions of my governing bodies, my colleges, my universities, my profession, psychiatry. And also, I must say that I'm going to talk about different body weight scales that I have here. I don't have any kind of financial conflict of interest here. I purchased these scales, as I will tell you, over the course of the last 20 years. I tried them all, and I'm sharing my experiences as a consumer. I'm not advertising, I'm not promoting anything, just my pure opinion based on my experience with these devices. And honestly, I hope that you will appreciate me sharing these experiences specifically as a consumer, not as a medical doctor, not as a, I don't know, advertisement agent, fitness guru, somebody who tries to sell these devices to you. Just literally somebody who bought these devices, tried them all, and used them for many, many years. So let's dive in. Let's start with the core principles. And the principles are very simple. First of all, the scale must be reliable. It has to provide you with an accurate measurement of your weight in whatever units you prefer, whether it's pounds or stones or kilograms. I prefer kilograms, but as you noticed in many of my videos, since I live in Canada, I use imperial system a lot. Many of the modern scales provide you with both numbers. That's the least of our concerns. The second thing, I don't think that the scale should be very expensive. So there is a huge range of prices depending on the accuracy of the scale and the grade. There are some medical grade scales that will cost like 10, 20 times more than the consumer grade scale. And I don't think that for most of the people, something like this is necessary. You don't need to overinvest your money into something that provides you with some extra precision when it's absolutely not necessary. Our weight actually fluctuates a lot during the day and from day to day. So whether your scale is like gives you some sort of a margin of error within 50 grams, it's totally fine. When we're talking about medical grade scales, they likely will be way, way more precise, but nobody cares about this precision in the long run because we're talking about losing multiple kilograms, and this plus minus several grams do not really matter. The next thing is many of the modern scales, they allow you to know way more about yourself than just your weight. They allow you to calculate number of parameters such as your body fat percentage, your hydration level, amount of skeletal muscle, amount of bone mass that you have, as well as sometimes they can calculate other parameters. Some scales, as I will show you, actually can track your heart rate, for example, or produce even some numbers about the cardiac output and so on. Additionally, majority of the scales I will show you will be able to show you some distribution between subcutaneous fat and visceral fat, and also they will be able to calculate your BMR. So you can see there are quite a few things that S scale can provide you with, and that is pretty much the reason why I'm recommending get an S scale. Again, they shouldn't be very expensive. I would say that the typical range for scales starts from like, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 bucks on something discounted, up to a couple of $100. If you go past that, you'll get into some space technology that likely you do not need. And I happen to possess a couple of those, but I will review them today, and it's up to you to decide whether you need something like that or not, whether it's worth it or not. In the long run, by the way, no matter how much money you spend on a scale, if you spend $200-300, which is 2-3 times more than I would recommend, you will still spread this amount over the course of many years, and you don't have to be very egotistical and use the scale on yourself. You can use it with your family, with your clients, if you're like fitness trainer and so on, with your friends. So scale is a very good investment to begin with. So these are the principles. Let's go into the review of the scales that I have, and I'll make a couple of comments about each one that I possess. I decided to review them in chronological order just because it makes more sense. As the time progressed, the technology evolved, and each and every scale that I would get would be better than the previous one. And also I can illustrate to you the price range and the technological miracles that are embedded into this scale. So the very first scale I wanted to show to you is this one. This is the scale, believe it or not. I bought it in Ukraine maybe 20 years ago, at least 20 years ago. I used it for several years, then I came to Canada, and I brought it with me. Don't ask me why. I don't think it's an essential thing, but I think it shows how dedicated I am to the idea of fitness. But I brought the scale with myself, and then I used it for a couple of years, then I passed it to some family members, and I dug it out from basement just yesterday. Had to dust it off. It doesn't look good, but all I had to do is just replace the batteries and try it out. The scale still works and shows accurate weight. The points are, first of all, it's a very cheap scale, manufactured likely in China 20 plus years ago. It is still working, and I think I spent like $10, and you can see how good of an investment it is. If we spread this amount of money by, I don't know, 1,000 uses, we'll get to like a cent per use. So it's actually very cheap. The batteries cost more. So this scale is very basic. All it shows to you is your weight, and clearly at this level of current level of technology development, we can do much better. So let me proceed to something more advanced. And the next scale would be this one. This is a Weight Watchers scale that I bought approximately 15 years ago. I remember that it was at Shoppers Drug Mart. I was passing by and I had an urge to buy some gadget, and I saw this one. I'm pretty sure it was discounted and was like around 30-40 bucks. It was one of the first scales that would use a bioelectrical impedance method. See, there are two electrodes here that can run very small electrical current through your body in order to see how much body fat you have versus lean body mass. So body fat is essentially an insulator. The more body fat you have, the more resistance is in your circuit, essentially. And these devices can calculate the amount of body fat you have, and essentially it is reflected in the system here. So it calculates your body weight, it checks your body weight, the body fat percentage, also can tell you how much body water you have and how much bone mass you have. And also you can program it for up to 4 users. You have to input some parameters like your age, your sex, your height, and that will allow the device to calculate that. Before we proceed, I would like to say a couple more words. First of all, having 2 electrodes is nice. In the future, I would strongly recommend that you get a machine that has more electrodes, and I will get to that in a second. Also, another thing is it's a glass scale. I'm a little bit embarrassed. I literally tried to clean it multiple times. No matter what I do, I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I can see some fingerprints here. It will always be dirty. There will be some dust, some fingerprints, some footprints on it. If you want something neat, Don't get a glass scale. And modern devices have actually much more functionality. My point is still that for just 30-40 bucks, you can get something that can provide you with good amount of information for 15 years, and it's still running, right? And before I proceed to the next devices, I would like to say that around the time when I owned this scale, I was very passionate about this bioelectrical impedance algorithm. I actually had access in my office to a professional grade device that was purchased for some research. The company that makes them, there are several, but the one that we had was made by InBody. It's a machine that costs several $1,000s, likely around 15, 20 these days, the most advanced models. But it is like pretty big machine and provides you very accurate results in terms of your body fat percentage, your muscular development, as well as segmental lean development. So it can tell you how much muscle you have in certain parts of the body. So that's a huge advantage. These machines are very accurate, but obviously they are very, very expensive. I would never recommend buying something like that, but you can use them in some gyms. Actually, most of the gyms I've been to have some sort of a machine like that that can provide you with some information that you can use for your purposes. The problem with those machines is that they are obviously available, but I'm not sure if they are calibrated properly, and I'm pretty sure there are lots of people using them. Plus, in some future videos, I'll talk about how to properly check your weight, and the ideal timing is at the same time approximately after waking up. You use your washroom, you don't take a shower, you don't eat anything, you don't drink anything, and then while the skin is still dry, you check your weight approximately at the same time of the day. In this case, the results will be reliable and there will be no change due to time of the day and so on. Since I have quite a few scales, I've been experimenting a lot, and I can attest to the fact that overnight my weight drops by 2-3 pounds. During the day, I gain 2-3 pounds. Usually, we're talking about water. So there are significant fluctuations of the level of hydration, electrolyte balances, and these parameters, they change the way the scales assess your essentially body parameters. So you likely would benefit from having a scale at home. And again, I think these are good investments. So we've discussed the two scales. Let's get to the third one. Okay, the third one is the scale that is a little bit more elaborate than the previous one. It is made by Omron. Omron is a company that makes a lot of home-based, like medical, consumer-grade medical devices, like such as like blood pressure monitor, I think like thermometers and so on. And also they make pretty good scales. So this one I bought maybe 10 years ago, maybe 12 years ago. I spent, I kid you not, around $300 then. Right now they're much, much cheaper. I think you can buy one for maybe like 100 Canadian. So what I would like to talk about this one, and the reason why I bought it is that when I was talking about these commercial grade devices, I mentioned that they allow you to calculate or estimate segmental lean development. They do it because they have very specific structure, and the structure has a couple of electrodes for your feet, but also a couple of electrodes for your hands. And when you're holding 2 electrodes or more with your hands and standing on more electrodes with your feet, you've got 4 points of contact, and these devices can run electrical currents in various directions, and that is something that allows for more precise and more detailed description of your body fat distribution and distribution of your muscle mass. So, having said that, we've got this device that has 2 electrodes for your feet, for each foot, and also has 2 electrodes for each hand. And that allows this device for very precise, accurate calculation of your body fat percentage. It can also calculate your visceral fat amount. They have this odd index. I think it deserves a special video on that. Unfortunately, for some reason, it cannot calculate segmental lean development, but we'll talk about it with some other scales. But it can provide you with body fat percentage, your weight, bone mass, muscle mass, visceral fat, and BMR, which is, quite frankly, the basic things that you can reliably get from a scale. The rest, there are quite a few other parameters, and you will see they are not that easy to get from consumer grade electronics. So we discussed this device. This device is actually something that I would recommend for a typical consumer. Something that costs around $100, provides you with a number of parameters, pretty good, and most importantly, it has this handlebar that allows you to allows for higher precision. Let's move. I've got a couple more scales to talk about. Okay, the next scale is the most expensive scale that I have. It is made by InBody, so the same company that makes this industrial grade, commercial grade scales. Those are super expensive. This one was around $300 US at a certain discount. I actually don't remember how much exactly I've spent, but I think it was in total around 500 Canadian dollars. It is a wonderful scale. It feels nice. It is a high quality scale. It's beautifully designed. It has multiple electrodes. It has multiple electrodes for hands, for feet. It is made by the company that has all the technology to calculate your segmental limb development. So I'm very happy with it, but I would not recommend buying it for one simple reason. Well, first of all, it's expensive, but also what it provides you with in terms of information, it's not very different from what same Omron can provide you with. It gives you your weight, your body fat percentage, your muscle mass, your BMR, a couple of other parameters, but nothing extraordinary. And quite frankly, I don't even know why they needed that. So it has this handlebar. It has multiple points in terms of like contact points, the electrodes. So it should be able to calculate your segmental limb development, but unfortunately it doesn't do it. And we know that the company that manufactures them has the technology to do this. They have all the algorithms, all the formulas, and so on. So honestly, I have no clue why the company of that scale, no pun intended, the company that manufactures this consumer grade scale would not put this technology in. Likely the reason is that they still want people to buy the commercial grade scales, but that is just my speculation. Again, I bought it because I'm a nerd. Actually, in my book, when I was writing the chapter about scales, I mentioned me considering buying this one. So it is rather expensive. There is no point in spending that much money on something that doesn't give you any kind of additional information compared to the regular consumer base scales. Okay, let's move on. We've got scale number 5. At this point, you might think that I'm a real nerd, and I will admit I am. I just like gadgets, and I bought this scale because a patient of mine actually recommended it to me. They did a lot of research, and they said they found this scale that is relatively inexpensive and provides you with lots of data. And if you notice, this scale, by the way, it's made by a company called Oxyline. I'm not promoting them. I've got some reservations about it. It doesn't have these handles, but somehow it doesn't interfere with its ability to calculate certain parameters. It has multiple sensors here, and when you stand on it, you can connect it to an app in your phone, and it will allow you to calculate number of parameters. So I will just list them, and I will tell you what exactly my issue is with this device. First of all, it gives you your weight, it gives you your heart rate and cardiac index, which is interesting. This is borderline medical information, and I'm not sure how accurate it is, by the way. It calculates your BMI because you program in your weight, your sex, and so on. It calculates your body weight, body fat, your muscle rate, whatever it is, which is 70% in this case. I honestly don't know what it means because nobody's body can be 70% muscle. And that is the beginning of the issues that I have with this kind of scales. So they're very modern. They give you lots of points of interest, but at the same time, some data, they do not make any sense. So then it says that your fat-free body weight is certain amount, which is essentially your body weight minus your body fat weight. it calculates your subcutaneous and visceral fat, body water, and then it gives you another parameter, which is skeletal muscle, which is 38.5% of your body weight. That totally makes sense, but I do not know how to reconcile it with the muscle rate parameter of 70%. I feel very muscular. I'm like a Hulk here, but clearly it's not the case. Then it gives you some bone mass in kilograms or pounds, whatever you prefer, percent of your body that is comprised by, consists of protein, and your BMR. So I must say that that's a pretty neat number of parameters for a small device like that. It's very easy to use. It stores the data in the app. I don't know for how long, but you definitely have access to it. And, for my purposes, I always could backtrack information for a couple of weeks back. I assume it's 120 days or 90 days, but it's not important. What is important is that for just like less than $100, you can get something like that will provide you with number of parameters, and it's like super, super easy to use. So initially, when I was thinking about making this video, I was going to be a little bit overly critical about this device, but I realized that it actually is a good choice. You don't have to spend too much money. The parameters that it gives you are quite accurate, and they are in line with the parameters that are estimated by other scales. I'm playing with all of them, so I can tell. So let's move on. Okay, the next device is another Omron scale. It is essentially almost identical to the older Omron scale that I had. It's just like this one, I think, was made in Japan and was imported to Canada, and that is why it was much more expensive than the regular one. It came in a beautiful blue color. It gives you a very nice premium feel. Unfortunately, the parameters it calculates are not different from the regular Omron. So if you were to buy something on a limited budget, I would go with Omron, the regular one. Again, I think it costs around 100, 120 bucks Canadian right now. This one was, I think, close to $250 or $300. And quite frankly, the main reason why I bought it was because I wanted to pass one of the scales to my family members, and I passed this white Omron to them, and I bought another one as a replacement. And at that point on Amazon, I've seen this beautifully blue version of the scale that I'm used to. So I got this one as a birthday gift or something like this to myself. So that is almost it. We've got one more scale that I would like to talk about, but I will save it for a special video. So for those of you who are present on like Instagram, Facebook, spend a lot of time Googling stuff, you might have seen this one, which is the scale that is manufactured by a company called Hume Health, I think. It's a relatively expensive scale. It's endorsed by multiple fitness influencers, doctors, and so on. And I bought it. It was relatively expensive. I think it's always on some sort of a discount. I think I've spent around 300 American dollars on it. So it was around like 450 Canadian at that point, plus some importing fees, transportation or like postage fees and so on. And I'm not particularly happy with this one. It has handlebar. It has everything a good device should have in order to calculate segmental limb development. It actually does do it, but it does it in a very odd way. And I honestly cannot recommend it. Since I've spent a decent amount of money on the scale, I will make a special video about this Hume Health scale. So let's wrap up this video with some sort of a summary. And the summary will be simple. You need a reliable scale, inexpensive one, that can calculate as many body parameters reliably as possible at a reasonable price. So my two recommendations out of all the scales that I have gone through would be something like Omron, the white one actually, the cheaper one. You don't need to go for something exotic. It does the job. It's very robust scale, provides you with accurate information for approximately $100, and it gives you your body weight, your body fat percentage, certain amount, the certain indication of how much visceral fat, muscle, and bone you have, which is essentially all you need. All you can go with something like this oxyline scale. Actually, must say I agree with my patient. It is a very nice find, because for just like $100 or so, you can get a device that will calculate a number of parameters. They might not be as accurate as Omron or as InBody, but this kind of device is very universal. You can actually take it with you when you're traveling. It's very light, and it gives you 15, 20 parameters that, with majority of them being important. So body weight, body fat percentage, muscle mass, bone mass, water mass, visceral fat, subcutaneous fat. What else do you need? Ideally, it would be great to get like segmental lean development, but I would say that this device is, quite frankly, optimal. So one of those would be my recommendation, either this Oxyline or similar device, or Omron or similar device. So these are my recommendations. I will wrap up this video. I wish you amazing time. Meanwhile, I will work on the video on several videos, and video about this human health scale. I literally feel like I should make one. The second video will be about the proper monitoring your weight, and I've got a couple of more ideas. Most of them are actually quite well described and worded in my book, The Rational Diet, so check it out. So thank you for watching. I hope that you like this kind of content. Please ask your questions in the comments section for this video. Check out my website, drsamshealth.com. And if you have any questions, any comments, please leave them. Communicate with me. I'm always happy to answer your questions. I'm very happy to see that my videos help somebody, and I hope they do. So I will keep working on them. In 2025 will be a big year for videos, and I'll see you in my next video. All the very best.